I know the Polymega is hard to justify for plenty of people out there, but there's a lot of people who have one, and there's a lot of people I see who are interested in them. So we're gonna be talking about some stuff that I find interesting. So what we're looking at today is gonna be a way to load ROMs onto the Polymega, but this is also gonna be useful if you have original hardware or clone hardware, if you're interested in this kind of stuff. So as you know, if you have the modules, I have all of them that are currently available. If you have cartridges, mostly originals, like some homebrews and reproductions don't work. I've kind of had mixed results, but all original cartridges have worked for me. But if you have the module, you could, play your games through the cartridge slot. You can install them to the system. You can add, an SSD. I have a 2 terabyte in there. And then you can also play disc-based games. In the drive right here, you could burn disc-based games and install them if you want. But there hasn't really been an easy way to install ROMs if you don't own the cartridges. And that's where this comes in, the RetroBlaster Mini. Now I have this for numerous reasons, but I think one of the more interesting things is for Polymega users. But this little guy is gonna allow us to load ROMs onto this system. I think this is pretty neat. Reminds me way back when I did videos on the Infinite NES Lives stuff, but I don't think they really make those anymore. But with this thing here, you can buy all these little cartridge adapters, Sega Genesis, Nintendo 64, NES, Super Nintendo, and Turbo Graphics. Now, there are ones I think for Game Boy and whatnot, but I wasn't really interested in that. And here we're gonna be limited in certain regards. I have heavily tested Super Nintendo and have been pleasantly surprised with what we could do here. But things like NES, it's kind of, there's limitations as far as, NES is complicated with all the mappers and whatnot, but we'll get more into that in a moment. Now, Nintendo 64, from what I've heard in the past, may not work with this, but we're gonna try it anyway, but I'm pretty sure everything else will work just fine. So with these adapters, say for example, Super Nintendo, you would plug it into the front of the RetroBlaster Mini. Then on the back, you have USB-C, plug that into your computer, but you're gonna have to have something to attach to this slot here. And that's where these things come in, Super Nintendo Blaster. So these are essentially to make like reproduction games if you want, but they're reflashable. So you could do it over and over and over again. Now, all of these boards may have some limitations to them, like this one as an example. There's no special chips here. So special chip games, now, if you wanna play on original hardware and you put a special chip game on this, it's not gonna load because it doesn't have those special chips. But the Polymega is different. It doesn't care about the chips on the board. It just cares that the actual ROM information is on it. So I was surprised with this. I've been able to put like Super FX games, DSP games on here, pop it into the Polymega and install them, no problem. So we have all that, the Genesis cartridge adapter, or the actual cartridge, the Nintendo 64 one. Like I said, I'm not hopeful on this, but we'll try it. And then also the NES one, which is gonna be very limited on what will actually go on here. This is a very simple process. Then we have the Turbo Blaster one. This one's pretty cool, just already, it's a hue card. Don't have to worry about anything, but all these other boards, just to make it easy so I'm not struggling inserting, putting it in here, I am gonna put everything into original, like they're not originals, but like, cartridge shells for those consoles, so it's easier to put into this, put into that. But I'm gonna go ahead and do that real quick. Then we're gonna jump on the computer. I'm gonna show you the process of adding the ROM, how simple and easy it is, and then we're gonna install stuff. So let's do it. Okay, so before we begin, I'm gonna show this real quick fast-forwarded video of when I first tested this out with multiple angles a couple weeks back. And yeah, it's really awesome how this thing works, but I think the potential here for using this for other hardware is definitely there. Say for example, you wanna play on original hardware, or you have an analog console and flash carts are kinda out of the question for you, or you just don't like the idea of having hundreds of ROMs in front of your face, not being able to focus. Hey, you could grab the Turbo Blaster with your Analog Duo, your TurboGrafx 16, whatever, put a single game on there, play through it, and when you're ready, change the game. All these cartridges that would normally support save files, they all have batteries, they're good to go. So yeah, that's just one use there, but let's go ahead and flash some games here. So I'm gonna do each cartridge and then we're gonna test it out. on the table and see if everything works. But I have the RetroBlaster software here. It is available on the RetroStage website. I'll put a link down below for everything, but I have the Super Nintendo cartridge attached with the adapter and all that. I'm going to choose a ROM. You know, let's install Doom. That's a special chip game. Let's see if that works. If your ROM is not good, it'll tell you, but there we go. It's just going through the process. It may take a minute once it's done erasing the cartridge, because it has to erase the information on there if you already put a game, and then it'll start flashing the new ROM that you selected. And then once that green bar is done, it says it's done, you can like load up your game, play it however you want, put it on the Polymega. But there we go, 42 seconds to get that one done. And we'll check that out, special chip game. Now I'm gonna go ahead and attach the TurboGrafx one. I got the RetroBlaster like hue card attached. Now I'm gonna select TurboGrafx, right ROM. I'm gonna have to search for wherever the heck I have my games. I think I'll do a New Adventure Island. So I've never used this one before, but it still says it has to erase it. So I guess it just automatically does that just in case. That one took 1 minute and 14 seconds. Let's go ahead and switch to Sega Genesis now. So unfortunately, I think I'm going to have to skip Sega Genesis for this video. Kind of sucks, but I think there's something wrong with the Sega Blaster cartridge board, as every time I try to write a ROM, I've tried numerous ones, including ones that I've dumped myself, it just freezes after a moment and nothing happens. It doesn't seem to work. You can dump your own games on the Blaster Mini with the attachments, and I've tried Sega Genesis, so I don't think there's anything wrong there, as I can dump my ROMs no problem, but I can't write anything to this board, so I'm going to reach out to RetroStage, but moving on. Okay, like I said, I'm not sure if Nintendo 64 is going to work on the Polymega, but this will work on original hardware. But let's go ahead and write a ROM to the Nintendo 64 cart. I'm just going to do GoldenEye. Okay, so that one took 1 minute and 38 seconds. Let's move on to NES. Okay, so NES is going to be a little weird. There's so many different mappers, and the Discrete Blaster Pro cart that I got from RetroStage only supports mappers 0, 2, 3, 7, 11, 30, 34, and 66. Mapper 30 is the NES Maker mapper, so that's kind of cool. But if you're looking to put stuff like, let's say, Super Mario 2, a lot of the popular games, they're not going to work on this. So you're going to have to figure out, they do have listed on the website what games are for each mapper. There's a link to all that, but like right here, Mario 2, I believe I selected, or Mario 3, Mapper 4. It's not supported, so we have to select something that is supported. And I know for a fact Balloon Fight should be supported, so I'm going to select that one. And there you go, starting the process. So we'll let that run through, and then we're going to try all this stuff out, minus the Sega cart, unfortunately, on the Polymega. Hey, that one only took 23 seconds, so let's do this. Okay, we got all our cartridges ready to go other than Sega Genesis. I'm really disappointed in that. Hopefully I can get that figured out. I did email them, so we'll see what happens, but we're gonna test everything else out. So if you remember, we put Doom on this cartridge. Let's go ahead and pop it in. And earlier in the video, when we were first starting this, I showed you where I recorded a while back where I loaded a game, a ROM, onto this cart, installed it, removed it, booted the game up, installed another ROM to it, installed it onto the Polymega. So rewritable over and over again. But there we go, Doom showed up, manage, add to collection and install. Showing my collection, boot it up. We can remove the cart because it is installed on the system. Put another game on there if we want. But there we go, Doom for the Super Nintendo. Playing just fine, really awesome. Just one way to be loading up ROMs on your Polymega, but let's go ahead and exit that. Try something else. So we'll remove the module, put in the TurboGrafx one, put the RetroBlaster chip, hue card, whatever you want to call it. Oh, there we go, New Adventure Island. Install it. Remove it. We could load another game on here. Install another game if we want. but pretty sweet. Everything's working good so far. Let's try out NES next. And then we'll give N64 a shot, but I don't think it's gonna work. I'd be surprised if it does. I used a Pico N64 cart before, which is a similar thing where you just load ROMs to it and it just acts like a original cart, and that didn't work either. So I'm not hopeful, but we'll give it a shot. But okay, NES time. NES module. We put a balloon fight onto this one. See if it loads up. And there we go, balloon fight. Play it, take it out, put another game on there like I keep saying. I mean, that's kind of the point here, I guess. Freaking love this game. But okay, let's try N64. Let's see what happens. It might show up as game media, but I don't know. Holy crap, it worked. Did it work? It actually worked. I had heard this doesn't work. What the heck? That just like made me freaking happy here. It doesn't make up for the Sega Genesis cartridge not working, but close. So when Nintendo 64 games load on the Polymega, it has to like download a file or something if you're connected online. And that's one way to make sure the performance is good, but I did that CPU upgrade on this system not that long ago. Might void your warranty doing that, but you know, whatever. But that's sweet. Take that out. Okay, this is cool, man. I'm really happy that this is working with Nintendo 64. So I'm gonna have to install a few more games that I don't have cartridges for, but man, awesome. So yeah, if you have a Polymega, this is one way to install ROMs if you don't have the actual cartridges. Obviously, it's not as simple as just loading ROMs. Like you have to have these, you know, boards and whatnot, but it's a solution nonetheless. So that's why we did this video. But really do appreciate you guys hanging with me. Thanks for watching. Bye.